All right, and there we have a wrap for 2024 Boxing 5 Promotions. Larry Wainstein, the promoter of Boxing 5 Promotions. We're going to do talk about the year, how it's gone, and I think there's just so much that has happened. Larry, welcome back to SA Boxing Talk. How are you doing?
Hi, Hayden. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean you've covered it all. It's been a year of highlights and lowlights and highlights. And obviously. The lowlights was at one stage where they stopped our license and we couldn't put on fights. It stopped us from doing 3 extra tournaments, but we got through it, and we just gotta knuckle down and like I always say, when like-minded people work together, they get over the blocks in the road, and it's been a hell of a year. If you've written a script about a year for a boxing promotions company, I don't think you could have written it better with as I said, with highlights and lowlights, but ending on a note I think you could never even write a script for.
I mean, if you looked at the product of Boxing 5 when it first came out to how it's developed now, the social media, the venues, they're just getting packed out. How would you describe that, in your opinion, just from the beginning to where we are now?
So I think it's because of the work ethic that the team has, and it's not just me. It's all the different facets that the team brings to the promotions company. And after every tournament, we have a meeting and we look to see where we can improve. And we discuss our fighters, which fighters we're going to sign up, which fighters we're going to put on, and how it works, and all of that. Doesn't just happen.
I know you don't like highlighting people. We've done this in the past where you don't like to pick a favorite fighter of the night, but there are a few standout stars that have been here in the year. Maybe I'll mention a few and maybe you can just talk about them. Let's start with Kane F, since he's just finished with the fight of the night title. What did you think of his year?
He joined us, he signed with us, and we sat with the team and we actually planned a year for him, what we were going to do. And also, when we say planned it for him, they were part of the plan. It wasn't just, well, this is what we're going to do. And they said, well, what would you like to see happen? And they told us, and I think we've fulfilled the obligation, because that's what happens. There's no contract signed, but we gave them our word that if that's what you want, we will make it happen. And we did. He's had the 3 fights with us. He fought, and then he wanted, he was always keen to do the IBF Intercontinental. He did that, he won that. And then this one was like an international fight to get him exposure internationally. And I think we've done a good job. They've done a hell of a job. And that's all you got to do. You got to be true. You're not always going to get it right, but if it's within your means to do it, you must do it. Don't just say, oh, we can't do it. And that's what we did. We've sort of, at one stage with this last tournament, we were putting on Potties and him, and we were just concerned. We were looking for a new venue because we thought the venue is going to be too small. And then Chris hurt his shoulder. Chris Thompson, who was going to fight for a title defense. Unfortunately, then the fight couldn't take place, and so that was a bit disappointing. And we decided let's do it at Boyson's. And it was a full house, not a seat in the house. And I know a lot of people always say there's no seats in the house, but I can promise you there wasn't seats, and there was even battle to get standing room.
Let's go to the main event, Kane F versus Wasiru. When you saw the matchup happening in front of you, obviously the fight went one way, then it went the other way. What was going through your mind throughout the fight, and were you worried?
Well, let me say this. Obviously, it was a decision which the boxer and the coach were involved in, and who is going to fight, because we gave a few options. And when we looked at it, they said they want this guy, and was him. And I looked at his record, and I saw 14 fights, 13 knockouts. Obviously, I said, well, they know what they're doing. We can't say no, so we went with it. And then I looked at his box record of this fighter from Ghana, and the one thing that I felt, if anything, it concerned me, but I thought, no, he's definitely would do well. I think he'll win it. Is this kid has come from a bantamweight up to a lightweight, and a lot of his wins was as a bantamweight. And then he's had one lightweight fight. So, that gave me a bit of confidence. But still, you never know. And when he came out the first round and the second round, and also, there was parts of the commentary that you guys were saying. And in fact, I was standing watching the fight, and Promoter Larry came and said, "Uncle, don't be worried. This guy's going to tire himself out." I was looking, and I couldn't believe my eyes what was happening. And then he just turned it around, and that's what it's written in history now.
And what of next year for him?
Well, obviously, he's now rated 20th in the world, and obviously he's still young. So, and if you look at the guys above him, there's some fighters. I'm not being, but obviously we'll pick the right fights for him, and not just easy fights. We'll pick the fights that can get him to the right ratings. And so we've got to get him into a position where he then goes for an eliminator or something. But, is it going to be in the first 6 months, in the second 6 months? Even in this year, the next year it will be to try and get him to an eliminator or something. You're never going to start within the next year get him a world title fight. If it comes our way, then we have to discuss it. But you also got to, think about the kid. You've got to bring him along. You can't just... He's shown us he can take it. That was one question we needed to know, because his last 8 fights, the 6 of them never went further than 2 rounds. So you don't know when he comes up against the opposition that's world class, how's he going to fare? And you only see it, has he got the heart? And boy, he showed us he's got the heart, he's got the punch. So we now can sit and plan it, and there's no hurry. Yeah. That's so, but that's what Colin and Gert and them discuss. I just go with, and I put on the shows, and we discuss how. And obviously, when you start looking at the big title fights or eliminating fights, that's where Colin comes into his own. He plans the fights to get the guy rated and then to get him in. Because unfortunately for us in South Africa, even with Kafu, that's what we did. We had to give it to an overseas promotion because they approached us. We can't match the money. There's no ways we can match the money that these fighters are getting, and our fighters deserve to get it. So as a promoter, even though he signed with us, we don't stand in their way. We give them the opportunity to earn that money, and that's what the plan is.
Well, let's go to Promoter Larry, because he came in the latter part of this adventure, and he's sort of joined on. But my oh my, has he made himself a big part of the team? You guys have looked after him really well, and he became the WBO world champion in Japan. I mean, that was massive for everyone.
Well, again, that's a story on its own. I mean, the story was I was in a meeting, and Colin phoned me and he said, "I need to speak to you." I said, "Okay, no problem." And he said to me, "I've got this boy that phoned and he wants to come." And I'm just, what do you think? I said, "Col, why isn't he on the plane yet? That's what the decisions you make, But Colin does. We discuss it, and then he said. Because he asked the kid, where's he going to, how does he see it working? And the kid said, I've got a trainer in East London. He said, no, look, you come up here, we'll put you up at the box camp, we'll feed you, we'll look after you, and you come here. And now you're signing with us, you're our boy. And that's how it started. And then we were looking to give him a keep busy fight in September. I mean, that was 2 months after he was with us, or 3 months. And Colin said, I just got a call from Mr. Honda asking if we would like to take on Kumida in a world title fight. And he said, I've never done this before. I haven't spoken to Kafu. I'm speaking to you, and I've already said yes. And Colin felt he had a chance. And he said, even if he beats us, we can bring him back. It's not a case of... So we took the chance. And, well, again, I've got to say, he went there and he just delivered, and he made us all proud. And it's like fairy tales.
Do you believe he's the sort of role model now for the rest of the boxers to aspire to be?
If anybody asked, any boxer said to me, what do I have to do to be a champion? I said, you just look what this boy did and what he gave up. He left his home, his family. He's got a child in East London. He left him with his mother. And he's not just, he didn't care. He cares about them. He's very concerned in that. But he had to do it because he knew that was the answer to him reaching what he wanted. And I don't think he realized he would reach it so quickly. And that's what it's all about, changing lives.
one thing that was important to you, and I know you've mentioned this to me in the past, is that when you have champions, you like it when they come and watch the younger generation as well. You know, they partake and they're in the crowd there and they're interacting. He's one of the guys that gets actively involved and has conversations about the fights.
All the time. I mean, there on Saturday we had a boy, Duron, that's had his first fight, that's been there with us for a year. And Collins didn't think he was ready yet. And then he said he's ready, put him on. There, Kafu was shouting on the top of his head, giving him encouragement. And he's not, he loves it. And he's part, what we've created at Boxing 5, and it's called Boxing 5. And all the boxers that are signed with us and spar, they're a team. Now, normally boxing guys are on their own. They're not part of a team. And this is where the success is coming, I think, with the youngsters, with the older boxers. I mean, on a Sunday, you would have Creed, you would have Katz, you'd have Kafu, you'd have all the boys training with Riaz, or training with Gert at Apex, with Shannon, you know, going for runs together. It's not like, oh, you know, I'm on my own because I'm a boxer. And that's where you get the guys talking to each other and egging each other on and asking and saying, what do you think? Where can I help? And they spar with each other, you know. So that's where the secret is with Boxing 5, I think, is recreating that team spirit.
Sure. And talking about team spirit, you're also creating new stars as well, because yes, it's a team sport, but individuals shine as well. And sort of the sort of newcomer of the year, I would say, put it that way, or developing fighter of the year, Frank Sotomela. I mean, I don't think many of us expected him just to demolish opponents the way he has been. And he's looking like, you know, he's on that title contention right now. What are the plans with him?
So and you and I have discussed Frank in particular, because when I started at Colin, Frank was on the peripheral. He was sparring there with, he fought for Shannon, and he would be there. He never missed a training. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one, but I'm one of the few promoters that I go to the sparring. Even when I don't have a tournament on, I go and mix with the guys, I go and see the guys. And I think that also helps, because they're there and they're seeing you there looking at it. So I saw this kid, he would come to training and he'd get in the ring, spar, and he'd do extra, and you'd see him on the bag and doing his thing. And then Shannon came to us and said, you know, is there a chance we could put Frank on a tournament? And Colin came to me and said, we need to give Frank a fight. Put him on, he did nicely, you know. He said, okay, first the fight that he had, and then we said, okay, then like with our fighters, when you put on tournaments, they can't fight every tournament. Then we started planning, we had to put him on, and then we put him on another 3 times. By the time we put him on for that third one, I was watching him, and all of a sudden his physique changed. He had bulked up, and suddenly he was muscular. And not that it's a good thing for boxers to be muscular because of his size, but he started using that in the ring, and he started bombing these guys out. And suddenly he came out of himself. And we always teach our boxers also, it's not just about in the ring. Out the ring, you're a brand, you're your own brand, and you've got to start putting yourself out there, going out there and putting on posts. And he started with the confidence that came with those fights. And you saw that thing about when the guy said, with your interview, he said, who's Frank? And then he even came in with a T-shirt, said, who's Frank? And then he's become so confident, and not over bombastic and he's sort of big-headed, but in his own way, he's turned the corner. And we're trying to get him an SA title fight, but nobody wants to bite. But we've got other plans then. If they don't, we've got plans for our young boxers coming up for next year.
Do you think, for example, he's going to be in a similar position where you have Kane Free doing the same thing, bombing everyone out, and then, you know, he'll take a step up fight, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of him?
We have to do that, because you can't then, you know, you don't want to just take, and I have a saying with certain fighters that get brought opponents in, they put him against the milli bag, because the next thing, you know the result, and you don't want that. And that's one thing Boxing 5 doesn't do. I'm not saying people do it. I'm just saying we try not to, because fights can get knocked out or whatever. But we try to get rounds out of the fighters to see how they improve. I mean, that boy Ish on Saturday, he fought Lucky Obalani before. But when he fought him, they went the distance, and it was 4 rounds or 6 rounds. I can't remember, 6 rounds, and it was a tough fight. So now what we did is nobody wanted to fight him, so we thought, let's put him again. Now we can see if he's improved, because there was that Ish that fought that guy. Now let's see what he's done. And he came out, and he wasn't. A lot of people saying, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" But that was the whole plan, because instead of him rushing in, and you're now trying to get him to settle down, box. And when I say we, it's not me, it's just the team, and he boxed beautifully. There was one or two things he was a little bit slower than normal, but that's how you learn. But when the opportunity arose, he was devastating. He knocked the guy. You know what I mean? So those are things that people don't understand and don't realize. It's not just put a fight on and there it goes. Everything and each fight is different, and everyone gets given the time. Colin doesn't just say, "Well, I've got the world champions, don't worry about them." And Shannon's there, we've got a team, he's got there, and Sean helps out with the guys. Everybody comes and puts in the time, and the boxers, the senior boxers, talk to the youngsters and work with them as well.
I know we can't go through every single boxer, because I just realized how many boxers we actually had. I was calculating it in my head.
Yeah.
But I think importantly, Sinakosi coming back with a stoppage win was a massive result. I saw Auntie Tani was crying on the side there as well. It was such an emotional occasion.
Well, that was because from where he came from, having had a jaw broken, and he was out for a year, and he never, boxers get injured and they go away. He stayed at Boyson's, he lived at Boyson's, so he became part of the family there, and he learned to drive, he learned to do things, and he worked with the Sama. And then he said, the doctors afterwards looked at him, he said, "No, he's ready to fight." The first fight we put on, a little bit disappointing, because he physically was fine, but mentally he was a bit still not right, and it takes time. And then this time, you could see totally different. He put in the work, and he really, really fought unbelievably.
So how do you match him now going forward? Do you think he's now got, is he like mentally 100% and he's ready for like the bigger challenges again?
Yeah, now we've got to plan it, and we're sitting down. It's coming to the holidays now, but we're sitting down now already, because already Colin and I sat yesterday and looking at our fighters, and you can't sign everybody, because then you can't put them all on, and then people get disheartened. So we look to see, but we look at our programming. So now, when you look at all our 4-round fighters, Josh and all the boys, and have gone up. Yeah. Ish is now fighting 8 rounds. Creed, another unbeaten boy, he's going to fight. He's now doing his last 6-rounder, and you've got Katlejo now that's into 8-rounders. So suddenly we're battling with 4-round fighters. So now we're planning to sign 4-round fighters to put them on our tournaments to fill up our bills.
And I heard Leduma Lamati is also planning something to try to help and assist with that as well.
Well, that's what Leduma's job is, to bring us guys that he thinks are capable, and he knows what we're looking for. Not just signing guys. It's got to be the right guys. They've got to have the right outlook. They've got to be clean living, and they've got to work within the facility.
What I wanted to say, and I think you guys are doing a great job in terms of developing boxers through the right levels, the 4-rounders, the 6-rounders, the 8-rounders, and then eventually the 10 and the belts. How many of the boxers that are at the 8-round level now have knocked on your door and said, "Hey, Uncle Larry, we'll be looking at a title shot soon"? Have you had any of that?
They all do. They all talk about it on their Facebook pages, and they're all saying, "I'm next time I'm fighting for this and I'm fighting for that." But what they don't realize, and it's great to be like that, but what they don't realize, it comes down. That's why Colin's there. He's the advisor. He decides. I mean, we get offered fights for our boxers to fight, and we don't stand in their way. If the fight is good for them, we must fight, not just our tournaments. But we won't take a fight just to do the fight necessary. If it's a fight that can get him to a position of where he can be rated, or find a way to get to those fights that they want to fight. And people don't realize you can't just jump from an 8-rounder into an intercontinental IBF fight. And there's been offers for fights, and Colin just says, "I don't think you're ready yet." And it's hard to say, because they feel it. They think, "Oh, but I am ready," But there's being ready and Colin thinking they're ready.
So do you think that plays a long role in terms of a boxer's longevity in the sports as well? Just doing things at the right time, because as you mentioned, they can jump to those big opportunities, but not necessarily last very long in the sport.
Well, that's the thing. Are you coming in to just get in there, be a world champion, and then goodbye? Or are you there to come in and then the longevity of being there, and you get known and you get the opportunity to take you to where you will reach where you're going to reach the climax of your career. Not every one of our fighters is going to be a world champion. And that's why I have this thing about guys that the lower boxers, or when I say the inexperienced boxers, let me not say the lower, the inexperienced boys, everyone's a champ. Oh, I'm a champ, this. You entitled to be called that when you win a title. Then you're a champ, because that's what you are, champion. And I mean, Pumelela was the example. After he won it, he said to me, "Uncle, you can now call me champ." So it's getting to them, you know what I'm saying? And he says, now everybody's going to know my name. I mean, he's had 11 fights.
Yeah.
11 fights.
He's a crazy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen for...
No. But again, one that we never mentioned, the sequence.
Oh, sequence.
Sequence. I mean, we've got plans for him. And I mean, we know he has the ability. Because the guy who beat him in Mexico, I think this month's fighting for a world title. And we know what happened there in Mexico, but be there, that's finished. But he's now signed with No Doubt Management, and we've got a plan. We put him on already, and we will now be planning what's he going to do next year. So now we've already Colin's already applying to get him in the ratings, and the champion has gone out of that IBF division. So now there's a chance where quickly he could get an eliminator and a title shot next year.
Yeah, and obviously two in the same weight division as well. Obviously. Yeah. In the same promotion, probably never fight.
No, but we were offered to fight. Before Kafu came to us, we were offered to fight by his promoter in East London. And Colin said, we're not going to go to East London to fight. Not that we're scared, but sequence, we will fight them. Yeah, they didn't want to come to Joburg. So it's life's strange, the decisions you make. And it wasn't because we thought that they both are good enough. Do you understand? But you obviously also with Kafu coming in and the two of them sparring, and they also talk to each other, and you got Laduma in the mix with them. You know, it just all helps. And there was no animosity or anything. And then Sequence obviously came to us and you know, he said, listen, it's time that I learned to listen to what the guy's saying. Because we knew what was going to happen. You know, not that we know everything. And it happened, you know.
But just speaking on the dynamic, I know there was a bit of awkwardness, let's say, leading into it, just because of the post-fight that could have happened. But, you know, seemingly they've become sparring partners now, and they, much like Heki and Simpiwe Konko did back in the days, they're friends now. And
100%.
They will help each other go to world level.
But that's exactly what it is, you know. Even though at that stage, being different managers and different, they were competing. Now you can't say, well, we're going to now put them against each other and see which one goes. You've got to give them equal opportunity. And there's so many other different you got WBO, you got WBC, RBF, you know, so you got all of the different ratings and that. So you put them in different categories.
I know you haven't had your meetings yet for next year, but do you have a rough idea, just to give the people out there an idea of when we're looking to relaunch again next year, and potentially how many tournaments are we looking at?
So, you know, we don't want to over predict, because we like to deliver. But what we found is every time we've tried to put on a development tournament, one of our top-rated fighters needed a fight. And then we started out calling it a development tournament, and it lands up being a development tournament with a top fight or one or two top fights on the bill. I mean, and we forget about, we've forgotten to mention our other boy who's been off, that was very unlucky in Japan, Lalata, Lamini. And I mean, Colin's already planning to bring him back for a keep busy fight and get him, because obviously he put in an objection with the fight. He lost on a split decision. But he's one of the fighters in the mix, and he's such a quiet and also a guy that people can take a leaf out of his book, and he's such a great fighter. I mean, what he did in Japan, and unbeknown to anyone, I mean, I don't make excuses, we didn't make a big thing. I mean, 3 weeks before he was in hospital with bronchitis and asthma, but he came out and he put on a show like you can't believe. So that's what we're planning. So what we're planning to do is we're looking at a bigger venue, because we've also got Potties. Potties we owe him a defense of his title. and hopefully Chris will be good enough in the early part of the new year. We'll put that show on. So you've got that. So our plans are to do bigger shows and then development shows. And we're just going to sit and plan it. So the plan at this stage is to probably do 8 tournaments next year. And if it starts working and things are going right, you could actually do more, because what we found is when you've got that nucleus of fighters that we've got, what is the actual contingency for a promoter is to use his fighters, he's got to put them on. Now, when you've got in the region close on 20 fighters, 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, and you've got your rated chart, you put on 8 fights or 7 fights. You don't have to put on 9 or 10 fights. But the reason why we've been putting on 9 or 10 fights is because every time we've put on a tournament, and you know, I've got to say this, and it's not our fault, and I just keep hoping that BSA gets tougher on the fighters and teach them some manners. And I'm not being nasty, because what happens is they sign a contract and then they don't just pitch for the weighing. They don't fight with a week to go. They cancel, and nothing gets done to these guys and managers. They should be banned. And then people will stop doing it, because then what we do is you've got a fighter that's trained for 6 weeks, and 2 weeks or a week before the fight or at the weigh-in where the guys don't turn up, there's no fight. And these guys who spent money on camps and everything now have to sit out a fight. And what happens is now we as Boxing 5 feel bad for the guys, so we add on, instead of having 8 fights, we add on the 2 fights that were cancelled from the last. So that's why we've been having 10 fights, 9 fights, 10 fights. And it also, what happens is, it actually costs, because our bills go up, because when the fighters with Boxing 5 don't pitch for the fight, we pay them their full purse, because it's not their fault. Do you understand? So that also, and BSA needs to be stricter. You know, they need to focus on those type of things to make sure that the boxing goes forward and the fighters are disciplined in the right way, not in the wrong way.
Sure, and I think maybe that if they do take a look at that, then we will be getting complete tournaments next year. And even this year, you mentioned those boxers were fortunate enough to jump onto the next tournaments.
Yeah, but it throws your scheduling out, because now you've got fighters that's fighting 2 tournaments in a row, and then you've got some fighters that don't come on. They think, why are they getting 2 fights? Do you understand? So it just puts pressure on us, but we have to try and work through it and work with them.
Predictions? Are we going to have another world champion next year?
Are we going to have another world champion? You know, we don't want to be make out that everyone's going to be a world champion. Are we going to have guys fighting for title fights, world title fights? We definitely are. I mean, you've got Lorato, you've got Sequence, those are 2 there already, and then you've got the younger guys coming through. I know the younger guys, I don't see them getting to eliminators and world title, but you can start looking at IBF Africa Intercontinentals. I think that's where we're going to be looking to push them and get them in the rankings and working them up and working them to that. But and then of course you've got Kafu defending. There's talks now that he might be defending quite early in the new year. So that's definitely going to happen. So who knows? It's we know what's written in the history books. It's all there.
Sure, can't wait for that. So next year's going to be another big story as well, and we continue to grow and get better.
Yeah.
Barry, do you have anything lastly that you just want to say?
Yeah, I just want to thank the supporters that come out to support us, and I know the Saturday night was unbelievable tournament. I got to apologize for the heat. It was out of our control, but there is something going on that we want to fix up. We're looking for a new venue, a bigger one, but we'll still do tournaments at Boyson's. But and then I want to thank yourself for being there for us, and all our working to Riaz and his family, to my staff and to the people that supported us, Penguin, Network X, and Drivetrain, and I don't want to miss out anybody, but they know who they are. So all of the guys that have supported us, Prop Shaft Center, Mountain Falls Water, so all of those guys that support us in small ways and other ways, it all helps to put on the tournaments. and we just want to thank them because without them, we just Laduma, and when I say my staff, Andile, he doesn't get many thanks. Our promoter, AB Manisi, who is the unbelievable, and like I say, who else? My partners, Colin, Riaz, so. But thank you, and as I always say, teamwork makes the dream work.